After failing to convince Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine by sending an emissary, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres arrived in Moscow to meet personally with Putin. The UN head arrived in Moscow after a visit to Ankara, where the government negotiates for a ceasefire. In his first official meeting in Moscow, Guterres sat in front of the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and said he remained extremely interested in finding ways to create conditions for a ceasefire as soon as possible. But after a frank conversation with Lavrov, Guterres told reporters that it became clear that there are two different perspectives on what is happening in Ukraine, suggesting that the Russian diplomat gave him little to harbor hope for any imminent withdrawal from hostilities. Guterres also met with Putin. Later, Guterres is scheduled to travel to Kyiv to meet with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who criticized the UN chief's decision to visit Moscow first as Russia continues to bomb Ukrainian cities. The UN Secretary-General acknowledged the global body's failure to achieve any change on the ground in Ukraine and said he was concerned about repeated reports of violations of international humanitarian and human rights law and possible war crimes, reiterating his call for an independent investigation for effective accountability. Guterres stressed the need for immediate humanitarian corridors to remove civilians from besieged towns, such as the port of Mariupol, and to deliver food, medicine, and other essential goods. To this end, I proposed the creation of a humanitarian contact group bringing together the Russian Federation, Ukraine, and the United Nations to seek opportunities to open safe corridors with a local cessation of hostilities and to ensure their effectiveness, he told reporters after meeting with Lavrov, calling the dire circumstances in Mariupol a crisis. Lavrov said Russia is ready to cooperate with UN colleagues to alleviate the plight of civilians in Ukraine. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had also spoken with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin the day before to intensify the Istanbul process, which remains the only mediation effort to secure a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine and begin peace talks. Stressing the need for a ceasefire and humanitarian evacuation corridors, Erdogan proposed a summit between the leaders of Russia and Ukraine, which he said would be an important basis for negotiations. Erdogan's call followed talks in Ankara with the UN Secretary-General. It was announced that they reaffirmed their common goal of ending the war as soon as possible and creating conditions to end the suffering of civilians.